Hey, so I recently set up DWM on FreeBSD, and I wanted to show everyone how I did that because it took a little bit of setting up, and it can be a little confusing if it's your first time doing it. So, to start off with, FreeBSD has a port system, which basically is a directory full of repositories with all of the software you might want to run on your computer. So if we navigate to that directory, cd user ports, one of the directories we have is x11-window manager, and we want to go to the DWM folder. So this is what it looks like. We have our make file, disinfo, files, and package description. So inside of the files directory, let's go in there. So I have a couple different patch files in here already. DWM comes with a couple by default. DWM desktop.in, super as mod key patch, and volume control. So let's delete the two that I created here. Don't worry, we'll recreate those later. Remove patch DWM.c. Oh, let's do as, which is FreeBSD's version of sudo. And remove patch config.def.h. So this is what you should have by default in your files folder. So let's go back up a directory into the main directory, and we have our main directory here. So we want to do as make and just make for now. So what this will do is it'll pull from the repository the source code, and it'll create a work directory, as we can see here. So if we go into that work directory, we see the DWM 6.3, which is the newest version of DWM, cd into that. So here's all the files that makes up DWM. So if we were to do make install, it would compile these files into a binary and install it into our system. But before we want to do that, we want to modify it with some patch files. So I've already downloaded the patch files in my downloads folder. So let me pull up my repo with all my patch files in there. github.com/supadia.dwm. There. So as you can see, I have 6 different patch files that I like to apply to my DWM installation. So it's pretty simple. The key concept is you basically apply patches to your working directory, and then once we've patched all the files, we want to create a new diff file and put it in the files directory, so that way we have a patch for our changes that will automatically get applied whenever we do make install. So in order to set that up, we want to back up 2 files, which are mainly the 2 files that get modified. It's going to be config.def.h and dwm.c. So let's back those up. We'll do copy config.def.h as config.def.h.og. We don't want to use orig because if we use that, it'll get overridden if any of the patch files fail and it needs to create the original file. It'll overwrite it, so we just want to call it something else. So in my case, I'll just call it OG. And do the same thing for dwm.c. Copy that to dwm.c.og. There we go. I'm now ready to start applying all my patch files. So the first one I'm going to apply is I'll do patch, taking in the file downloads DWM patches, DWM useless-gap.diff. Oh, permission denied. Do as. Okay, so if we start up here and look, we can see both my hunks succeeded for config.def.h, and 3 of them succeeded for DWM.c. So that first patch looks like it applied successfully. So the next one I have is systray. So we'll apply the systray patch. There we go. Now it looks like it succeeded, but if we look up here, we'll notice that one of the hunks actually failed, and it was saved to the reject file config.def.h.reject, R-E-J. So that's important to notice. I missed that the first time I did this, and it caused me a lot of headaches. So make sure you thoroughly check your output to see if any of the hunks failed. So we see hunk number 1 failed at 2. So let's open up config.def.h.reject and see what failed. Okay, so it's a couple variables that are added to our config file. So let's go ahead and add those manually. So here's our working config.def.h file. We want to open it up, and we'll see here we have the same variables: snap, show top bar, top bar. So we want to copy up to here all of the systray variables that are added, and just insert those. Oops, not snap. Into this file. Okay. That looks good. So let's save this and exit. Alright, let's continue on. We have bottom stack next. So we'll apply this patch. Looks good. Let's apply deck. And we have 2 hunks that failed in the config.def.h file. This is because both those patches that I just applied apply new layouts, and so we get a conflict because they're both trying to apply new layouts. So let's take a look at what that looks like. We're going to open config.def.h.reject again. Alright, it looks pretty simple this time. Should be a simple fix. Let's open the working config.def.h file. So I already know it's right here in this layout. It wants to add this line here. So we'll add that at the end. So notice this is the 5th entry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry, it starts at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the next thing we want to modify is the shortcut key, which is right below the M. So the reason why I failed is because it wants to add a new one here, but we already added shortcut keys here for the new layouts we added. So let's just add it right after that. Here we'll change it to R because that's what it's wanting, and we also want to change the layout number value to 5. Okay, that should be our changes. Alright, next up we have attach bottom. Looks good. And finally we have per tag. Excellent. Alright, now our files have been successfully patched with the changes that we want in them. So before we continue, let's create a diff of the original config.def.h file and create a patch for that in our files directory, and do the same thing for DWM.c. So what that'll look like is diff u config.def.h.og and compare that with config.def.h working, and put that in a file up here in the files directory as patch-config.def.h. We'll do as. Actually, let's try to do as. Alright, it failed because of this error operator, I believe. So let's just switch into root mode, or as the root user, and try that again. Diff u config.def.h.og with config.def.h, and put that in files patch config.def.h. Alright, and we'll do the same thing with DWM.c. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. DWM.c. DWM.c.og. Yep. Create that in files. Alright. It should be good. So now, if we go to our root directory and check out our files folder, we'll see we have the two files, patch dwm.c and patch config.def.h, which are the only two files that we modified in our directory, but they contain all of the patches that we applied, which is 6 of them in total. So now let's build this. And in order to build this, there's a couple variable or steps you want to pass into it. First is make DWM underscore conf, which is where we pass in our config file, where we can customize the settings that we want. So I have mine located in my source directory as config. Chris source DWM config. Now we don't want to just do make install, because that'll apply all of the patch files in the files directory, and there's 2 of them there that are optional, and it'll apply those if we just do install. So we actually want to do config to open up the FreeBSD config window, and to select if we want those or not. So we'll do config install clean. Alright, so we see here we have the super as mod key and the volume control patches, which are optional. So I went ahead and selected the volume control key to apply that patch to our installation. So click OK, and I'll continue with the install. Oh, I already have it installed, so it'll ask me to deinstall it and reinstall it, which we can do. Let's do as make deinstall, and then we will run it again. Looks good, and it installs cleanly. And then all you have to do is restart X. So if we exit out of this, back into our shell, start X again. I have DWM set to start on X in it. So if we go to the bottom here, we'll see I start user local bin DWM, which is my installed version of DWM. You could run the command start x DWM to specify the window manager you want to use, but it's probably best to include it in your .xinit file. And there you have it. So that's pretty much all the steps you need to customize DWM on FreeBSD using a port. So thanks for watching. If you like it, please consider subscribing. Helps the channel. And yeah, I'll catch y'all later. Peace.